Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening and a warm welcome to this webinar on quantifying the impact of COVID-19 on the commercial and residential real estate market. I'm Chiara De Cruz, analyst at Lysis Forest, and joining me is my colleague Sandeep Kumar, who is head of research and consulting at Lysis Forest. Together, we will be the moderators for this session. The session will have a presentation by Mr. Kapoor, which will be followed by a question and answer round. The Q&A chat box is enabled. You may post your questions in there, and the most relevant ones will be taken up and discussed in the end. A brief introduction of our main speaker for the evening, Mr. Pankaj Kapoor, founder and managing director of Lysis Forest. Pankaj has over 20 years of experience in the field of real estate research, valuation, consulting, and rating. He is highly acclaimed for analyzing and predicting real estate market trends with precision. Pankaj founded Lysis Forest in the year 1998. Lysis Forest is a non-brokerage real estate research outfit. Lysis Forest monitors the performance of over 20,000 projects across 60 cities in India and provides research and risk advisory to HFCs, banks, developers, funds, and government institutions. Mr. Kapoor is best known in the industry for bringing in a scientific approach to property pricing and for developing a reliable market database. Welcome, Pankaj, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kiara. Thank you, Sandeep, Harish, and everyone who has joined. We are overwhelmed with the kind of a response. Really, this is an endeavor that put through where we try to quantify the kind of impact the COVID-19 residential and the commercial real estate markets. So there is showing this, there would be several scenarios based on how long it is going to take to contain the virus. The impact will be more and more to the real estate market. So there is some bit of case studies and scenarios these we have done, and now we are taking you through the presentations. Yeah. So the presentation will look at, first and foremost, we wanted to talk about how big is the contribution of real estate market to the Indian economy. So we have done some kind of assessment that what is the size, what kind of contribution it has to the GDP, employment, and the tax, and then what will happen if the COVID impacts will take place and to the job market, and because of that, then what will happen to the commercial offices space scenarios, because if the jobs gets reduced, then there would be impact on the demand. And then we also have tried to assess what's going to be the impact of the residential real estate market. Apart from that, we have also looked upon the measures required to boost the demand. Real estate markets has been reeling under a stress for a very long time. And the problem has really got augmented in the recent times when the developers started defaulting. There was a huge debt on the real estate markets, and with the developers, the sales were not growing in tandem with the supply. Unsold stock was rising. Last 3 years and 4 years, prices have not really grown, shrink the margins of the developers. And now when the COVID-19 has come, and because of that, the likely chances of the shrinkage in the demand further will really have a long-lasting effect for the sustainability of the market. So it's a time for the government really take some bold steps. There have been various talks, various forum which is going on. Everyone is talking about GST, input credit to be allowed. Various measures has been suggested by the government. But I'm saying that what was missing in most of the places is that quantifications of what is needed, what will happen. Here is an endeavor which we have tried to put it through. And we look forward for your question answers at the end of it. So to begin with, we did assessments on real estate market. It's by size is close to 12.58 trillion rupees, which is 6.1% of India's GDP at the current prices. And if you look at the contributions to this 12.58, around 42% comes from the developer stocks and developer production. It is not a developer sales, it's a developer's production we have looked at, because at any given point in time, builder sells the project and then he takes a time to complete. It takes 2 years, 3 years, 5 years times to complete the project. So at any given point of time, the housing stocks under production is the one where the credit of the industry and the employment in the industry and the collection of the taxes are involved. So we have considered the housing production as an element to include rather than housing sales. Then we also have looked at the self-construction. India is a vast country. Developers market is confined to a majority of the large cities, and now it is spreading out. We have been capturing the data for 51 cities. My own sense, beyond those cities, developer market is very minuscule. Most of the other cities, it's governed by the self-construction, where the people purchase their plot and build their own houses. That is where the size is still much bigger, the real estate developer stock. So that's 53% of the market is in the self-construction, close to 6.73 trillion rupees. Commercial production is close to 0.62, which is 62,000 crores, is standing close to 5%. Commercial is retail as well as commercial office market. Retail, we mean to say that retail malls. In terms of employment to the market, so we have done the assessment based on the involved with the productions of housing. So if you look at the building material, the productions, construction labor, mortgage companies, brokerage and marketing sector. So if you look at construction material companies, contribute 1,27,000, around 58%. Construction labors in all these 58 cities, where 33 lakhs units is under construction as on date, employs close to 85,000 construction labor. Mortgage companies who and their people's their own employment contributes 2.4 lakh people. Construction finance sector is 0.13, which is around 13,000 people, and brokerage and marketing is close to 6.26 lakhs people who are employed in that. So they are a direct employment to the productions of real estate houses, and this contributes 5.5% to the employment, overall employment of India. So there is a very big contribution who are directly associated with the production of real estate market. In terms of taxes, if you see that, stamp duty is a major contributor by 54, close to 1.1 lakh crore rupees is contributed by real estate market. Stamp duty's contribution is 54%, GST is 43%, labor cess is 0.3%. So if you take that's contributions to the government exchequer by the real estate industry. Now coming to the residential real estate market, as of 2019 calendar year, we had introduced close to 4 lakhs new additions. That period, we had around 3,76,000 unit sales. Closing stock stood at 13,44,000 units. Inventory overhang is 43 months. Average cost of the unit stands close to 64 lakhs. And the value of stock sold during the calendar year was 2,40,000 crore. And the unsold unit is 33 lakhs units. So this is our data comprising of around 52 cities in India. Major sales contributors being your MMR, which is 68,000, followed by outer MMR, 14,000. NCR contributes 47,000. Pune 42,000, Bangalore 36,000. 30,000 contributed by Ahmedabad. Hyderabad is 20,000. Calcutta 15,000, and Chennai has come down from its peak 4 years back, and now it is reeling at only 12,360 units. So this is our unit contributions in the residential market. Now let's see that this is what is we wanted to see, that where we were set and what is going to be the impact on the job markets of the COVID. So what we did is we looked at the IT, ITS, and BFSI has been a major contributor to the purchaser of residential real estate market, as well as they are also major contributor to the grade A office supplies and the demand. So if you look at that, 55% global outsourcing business is handled by the IT company, generated mostly from US and Europe. And these are the countries which are, frankly speaking, heavily affected by COVID-19. Close to 80 billion USD worth of revenue was generated in 2018-19 by the IT companies in India. And now the US European market going down due to the COVID-19 impact, it will have its own impact on the IT market. So we did some scenario analysis, and in this scenario analysis, we looked at how long it may take. So if it is going to take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, or like, we went in by, if I have a containment in June, or containment in May, containment in June, July, August, up to September. If the impact is not arrested by then, how much of loss to the revenue is going to be, and based on those losses, when the company will start retrenching, because if their revenue, their cost goes over and above their revenue they are looking at generating, they'll start reducing the cost. So we did this scenario analysis, and based on that, we did the impactful. So every passing week of the lockdown is painful, and it will have an impact on. We did the assessment. We looked at that every month lost is close to 8.33% of the loss in the revenue. And we looked at margins of they maintain close to 25% of margins. So if 100 is their revenue, the cost will be 75. And we looked at IT companies generally is the work on the employee cost is 55% of the overall cost. So question is that if 1 month goes past, they may probably hold on, because from 100 they will become 91.67 their revenue, because 1 month's loss of the revenue. But when it start reducing further, if IT company has to maintain, if not 25%, 10 to 15% margin, they'll start considering reduction in the cost. And our interaction with many IT companies, people also is suggesting there are two sides of the story emerging. They are highly under the stress on what is happening onto the global market. And the second is, they are also seeing that the work from home is also another culture which is emerging. So the world will see cost reduction or cost rationalization is the options post-COVID. And if the prolongedness of this COVID-19 continues for a longer period of time, the company will start reducing their own cost. And based on that, the employee cost will get reduced. So if the lockdown is contained in May, the reduction in cost required is just 9%. If the employee cost will be just 5% reductions. But if it continues to June the 16th and the employee cost 9%, July 23 and employee cost 13%, August 30% requirement of reduction in their own cost, and 16% reductions in the employee's cost. And September, if it goes, is 36% and 20% reduction in the employee cost. So that kind of simulation when we looked at, and then we look at how the commercial market is set. But before that is, if they are reducing the employee cost, that means it will increase the vacancies, because the occupied stock will get vacated. So let's do the estimation of probable vacancies based on the different scenarios of lockdown. So altogether, top 8 cities commercial office supply, if you see that we have 699 million square feet of a grade A office supply. Occupied stock is 613 million. Vacant is 86 million. Bangalore contributes 134 million square feet of grade A office supply, of which 125 million is occupied. It has just 7% of vacancies. And so as your MMR 108 millions with 15% vacancies, Hyderabad is 103 million with 7% vacancy, Chennai 109 million with 6% vacancies, NCR is 128 million with 24% vacancies. NCR has the highest vacancies level which is available. Then we looked at what will happen, like considering the same simulations, and if the employee cost gets reduced, what could be the additional vacancy which will start. So right now 699 million square feet has 613 million square feet of occupied stake with the vacancy of 86 million. If the prolongedness, which May has already gone, the company may consider reducing the or vacating close to 5% of the occupied stock, and that will add 35 million square feet of vacancy. And so if it goes on to June, July, August, September, it is not a lockdown related to India's lockdown. It is related to when the global market comes into normalcy, and then they start functioning. The supply chains, supply line starts functioning properly, and their inventory, which has got accumulated for last 3 months and 4 months, start rolling back. And then, so our own interaction with a couple of companies and their employees, they say that they have couple of companies have reached to their own operative levels. They have transferred their desktop. Couple of companies also looking at certain portions of their own employees to work from home. Post pandemic, even though there are talks happening, not many companies will ask the employees to come back very soon. It may take much longer time, and the companies will be looking at cost reduction options because there is a dent to their top lines, which comes in. So the vacancy can swell from 12% to 32% if the normalcy takes 6 months to come by. But if you consider by June we attain this thing, the vacancy will increase from 12% to 20%, almost doubling. Then we also looked at which are the what kind of a concentration of tenants different geography has. Majority of the geographies have a major contribution, BFSI, IT, and co-working spaces. Now, NCR being a little exceptions to it. And the place like these are the industry which is likely to be mostly affected. Co-working spaces also, like it's a recent phenomenon, but my own sense is like since it is a period which requires, and the going forward times suggest that people will be looking at the social distancing, the co-working spaces probably is opposite to it. And I think that will see a severe impact to it. Last 2 years and 3 years, around 25 to 30% absorptions was done by these companies. And my own sense is during this FY 2021, I don't think so net absorptions coming. We are only seeing the vacancies in that sense. So if you look at majority of the cities have in excess to 60% stock occupied by BFSI, IT, and co-working spaces. So all these geographies will see an impact. In the economic meltdown during 2008, we have seen the phenomenon when many the rentals dropped drastically post 2008 meltdown. Places like Mumbai, we have seen when in Lower Parel, a building was asking 220 rupees a lease rental, they had to come down to 80 rupees to lease out their spaces. And if the vacancy increases, it has a very big impact to the rentals on the on commercial office spaces. So we see there would be going forward reduction in the commercial office spaces as the vacancy will go up going. And if you see the city-wise differentiation based on the cities have occupied stock, so you would probably see increase in the vacancies. So Bangalore shows 3.8 times if the containment goes on, or the COVID lockdown, and the global lockdown continues till September. 3.8 times, your NCR 1.8 time, MMR 2.3, Chennai 4.3, Pune 4.2, Hyderabad 4.1. So this is an increase in their vacancies. So looks like commercial office spaces will have long run impact and very hard to come by. I remember a time from 2008 till 2012 or 13, there was no new supply came in. We have seen only a depletion of inventory, and only post 2012-13, when the e-commerce bus came in, the new supply introductions started coming by. So it in past has shown prolonged depressions of around 3 to 4 years, and I see until there's another miracle, I don't think such kind of a demand, which is driven by the IT and BFSI sectors, to come by. Manufacturing can do quite a lot, but manufacturing generally is and likely to give momentum and the gain to the smaller cities, because large cities manufacturing, the prices and cost doesn't really allow the manufacturing to really take place in that perspective. So that is something which is there. Now coming to the residential real estate market, approach was more or less same, but before that we wanted to show you that what is the market where it is set. So the 52 cities in India has contributed annual sales of 3,76,000 units. Right now inventory overhang is 43 months, all India basis. Average is 5,883 rupees rate year. Last 3 years and 4 years, we have seen there's no growth in the prices. Inventory has grown 3x from two, and tier 2 cities have grown much faster than under the stress, high inventory overhang, increase in the prices, investor participation in the market has already got eroded. It's only the end user which was participating, and now the COVID-19 impact will probably add to its woes further. Of these 52 cities, majority of the contribution, like major share of annual sales, come from MMR, which contributes around 68,000 units last year, followed by NCR, which is 47,000. Pune is 42,000 units. Bangalore is 36,000 units. Ahmedabad is 30,000 units. Hyderabad is 20,000. Chennai is reeling quite low. But interesting to see that Ahmedabad and Hyderabad has got inventory months in lesser than 30 months, but rest all the places it is more than 40 months. And it's these are the two markets which can be considered to be relatively productive. However, my own sense is the months inventory below 12 to 15 months can be considered as sustainable. Anything more than that certainly suggests that we have high inventory overhang and it is slightly unsustainable, which will continue to be putting pressure on the prices. So prices, frankly speaking, prior to COVID itself was not so positive, and post-COVID, let's see what's going to be the impact. Now, impact on the residential real estate markets, since the job pay cut, job losses are likely, reality, which looks like going forward already started beginning in many places. So you will see there would be a shrinkage in the demand, like, people whose job is not secure and the real estate's once in a lifetime of investments, people won't really come forward purchasing their property if the job is not secure. Apart from that, I also see the big concern for this particular industry is that labor going away. And that will probably retard the credit flow in this industry, because the disbursement from the lenders will not take place because the construction is not taking place. And many laborers have gone away, and our sense is that quite a lot of the laborers may probably leave once the lockdown is discontinued, because the harvest season is starting. And this is a time where denser location will see exodus, and then the lesser dense location where the spread is not much, COVID impact and infection is not much, will see people movement and driven to that side. So I see from the labor point of this situation doesn't really look too good. It'll be very hard to contain them to continue doing the construction work. Following the same thing, we said that 8.33% is what is the revenue loss for every month lost in the lockdown. And March, we had only 5 days, so we estimated 1.64%. April, fully gone. Cumulative loss we have shown here, if like March and April together is 9.86. May also is 18.36% is already gone. If it continues till June, the 26% will be the reduction. Is a direct loss in the revenue if nothing happens. And our sense is that there would be inertia. It's not that the lockdown is removed and the people will come by and start buying. There would be inertias because there would be job losses and other things. So the revenue which is shrunk to the developer because of the lockdown is 26%. But to bring back the customer, there would be a further inertias. Anticipating that particular inertias, we did some assessment that this is my current mark, the top 8 cities. Top 2 cities, the market was 2,48,000 crore. Top 8 cities contribute around 75% of that, like 2 lakh crores. And so this is my CY19 top 8 cities, 2 lakh crore rupees was a market. By March, we've seen around 2% shrinkage. If the impact of the lockdown and the demand shrinkage maintains, we see by June, 33% of the market would get shrunk. And this is based on the profile of the customer. There are 2 segments of the purchaser we have. One is investor, another is end user. Or if we divide the end user by virtue of migrations driven end user upgradation or joint family expansion. We have seen the market, which is North Indian market, where the investor participation is still higher, and more so the compulsive investor is still really flocked in that market. You would see that those markets will really have the least impact of COVID, and largely because there's also a talk going on saying that the stock market has gone down. People will really start resorting to purchasing the property. I don't think so. Rational investor will look at participating in that manner, but the compulsive investor can do that, and that's kind of a method and behavior of the North Indian cities markets where we don't find too many rationality. I don't think so. Similar impact will be there in the western and the southern cities, but or the eastern cities, but the North Indian probably looks to be. When we simulated this perspective, we realized that by June, if I consider not going up to July, August, and September, but in my own sense, the May has gone past. I see the activities in order to getting resume. I think if one more month goes by, and by June, we see that the eastern city, there would be a contraction by 35%, western by 36%. The North India would see only 25% of the contraction, largely because the investor participation will happen. Builders may offer discounted properties, some lucrative offers, and they may probably see some participations of investors. So residential market at least will drop by 33% at all India level, which we have considered by June 22. And considering June 22 as a deadline here, then we see the builders will have to do some kind of a offering. And everyone is of the opinion, like especially Mr. Parikh has said, and my own sense itself is there, that my rental yield is way too low. The price is not productive enough. Builder probably have to make the prices more motivating. They have been providing in past by integrating subventions schemes or various other offers and costs, including to it. But having said that, there is further incentive which is needed. So even if builder consider 15% reduction in the prices and there is a 33% reductions in the demand, the revenue will get shrunk to 57%. That means 46% of the market is already shrunk by now if builder has to offer 15% of the discount. And if assuming post June, every quarter on quarter, if the market will start attaining even 20% growth on quarter, it is going to take close to 4 more quarters to reach to a level of December 2019 level. So I see there is a big impact and long run impact has happened to the size of the industry, which has got shrunk for the time, which is likely to get really be locked up during this lockdown. So the impact is quite severe. And to it is like, setting the things, and we wanted to really come up with some kind of measures. How can we really come out of this particular impact? And this looks to be very likely impact. And we have attended several webinar which has happened. Candidly, the developer is of the opinion that it is very hard for the buyers to come forward and purchase the property in the recent times, unless until this is something like never again offer, or they are saying that things will start moving only during the festive season and post October. So I see that there is a consensus that the market may probably be shrunk to 50% from the last year. But then the government also have to come forward to do some kind of a measurement, and we did some assessment. But before that assessment, I wanted to bring to the notice that what is kind of a supply setting we have. Government has in past provided various measures and incentives for this particular response to those initiatives which is taken 2019 cities 15%, but still it is insignificant because my inventory overhang is much more than that. The sales should really grow 2x, and largely because the reason is the incentive which has that developer. If you look at the compositions of unsold stock, less than unit costing less than 50 lakhs is just 25%, 50 to 1 crore 26%. This is my value of is unsold stock. 1 to 1.45 crores is 12%, 1.5 to 2 crores is 8%, and greater than 2 crores is 30%. So I see for the large city, which is contributing majority of the supply for a real estate market, something has to be done so that it influences the larger sections. So all the incentives provided by the developer, by the government, and all the measures they have done, which has only been positively affecting the first 25% of the market. The remaining 75% is left over. Something has to be done, because that is where the construction finance has taken, the money got locked, and then if demand gets shrunk further, you would see more defaults, foreclosure, NPA. And I think this will be the last thing the government would really look at, because that will create a spiral. Something has to be done. So we looked at certain measures, and then we also looked at that what would be the cost to the government, as well as what would be the benefit if that happens. So we looked at certain aspects that the government has to do some measures to boost the demand, because the consumer sentiments will be very low. What they should do to boost the demand. And for that, I just looked at 2-3 aspects. Like my biggest problem is my under construction property, which is around over 92% of the supply is lying into the under construction property. And so we looked at government should really look at interest exemptions limit to be increased to 12 lakhs rupees, which is right now at 2 lakhs. And we did some assessment. It's not really going to cost the government quite a lot, considering if we reach to 2019 level of sales and get over of this shrinkage. Waiving the GST for the under construction property for the consumers, waiving the stamp duty on the housing property, and the builders undertake to do a price correction of 20%. That is big thing which builder probably have to look at to boost that. Even if they do it 10% and 15%, anything which is, but the point we wanted to do that, we want to see objectively that by doing that, would their demand be increasing? And for that, we had one yardstick. I said that our current rental yield is 2.4%. Optimum is 5.5%. But we have seen that beyond 3.5%, the price becomes productive and starts showing the growth in the prices. So if you want the investor and consumer to come forward, you need to you need to make the product very motivating. Recently, we also gone through SDFC presentation and very startling facts which which we have seen, and very differentiating what used to be in 2006-7 consumer age and what is my today's consumer age. During that time, it used to be between 28 to 30 years as an average end user or consumer age, which has gone up to become 39. And that clearly indicates that very large sections of the consumer has become ineligible to be able to purchase the property. Despite 4 years of moderations in real estate prices, still the unaffordability is there. So the rental yield will be very interesting parameter to gauge at which point the demand can really trigger it out. So we did this assessment, and based on that, we realized that what cost reduction can make my rental yield to become 3.6%. And when we did this assessment, it translated into this. So there is an Excel files we probably can take you through. But before that, I wanted to show you what is going to be the impact to the government if we do that. So if we do the interest exemptions limit to be increased to 12 lakhs. So today's maximum is 3.5 lakh, where 1.5 lakhs rupees towards the principal plus 2 lakhs rupees for the interest. To go ahead and purchase the property, there would be incentive for them. The government loss due to this extension is just 2,000. If they do it, the impact will be just 10,000 crore rupees. Waiving the stamp duty to the house property, the impact will be 13,000 crore rupees. This is based on the assumption that we sell what we were selling last year, because we are seeing around 50% markets likely to get shrunk. And if for coming month, we want to boost the market and ensure that the employment continues. And if builder undertakes to take 20% discounts in the property. So not considering the builder's discount in that, the government initiative would amount only 26,000 crore. But you think about 26,000 or 27,000 crore against 5.22 lakh crore rupees of the size of the production size of this particular industry. If we don't do that, I see everything will start getting into standstill. Builder won't be able to repay their debts as such. They were running slower. If the construction does not really carry on, you would find that the construction jobs will get under stress. And if the construction stops and the sales stop, government collections, which is close to 1 lakh crore. So my own sense is it is less than 0.5% of overall incentives which is required if they do these particular measures. And our sense is that you would see not only residential end user, but even the investor will start participating. The point we wanted to make is that if I go back, that government should really look at touching the supply setting to around 70%. If you are only influencing to 25% of the market, builders problem cannot be solved in this particular manner. So this is something which is there. Post this pandemic, I think the cities behavior will be different. Pandemic will shape the cities and alter the order. I see that the pandemic will initiate the process of de-densification. Urban planner to city planner, everyone has to relook their approach to the city building. Higher density, higher FSI may not be the one which will be prevailing going forward, because people may not really look at Business will look at cost rationalization because the revenue will be under stress. You will see the spatial diffusion of job, not just to periphery, but to the smaller town. People will start migrating and since there's a job contraction or the cost rationalization taking place, the way the US job moved to India, Indian cities job will move to peripheries and to the places the people were migrating to these cities. So I see there would be a spatial diffusion of the job. Work from home will be the new normal. Most of this interaction which we are having right from housing lender, housing finance company to even IT company, they are looking at saying that 20-25% of their workforce can afford to really work from home, and the home is not necessarily to be within the city where their head office. They can be in the smaller city from where they've come to work in this city. So larger and denser cities and the costly city will lose to the smaller cities. Land prices will see a sharp correction. The constituent of the price this pandemic has dismembered. High price used to be because of the high density. I always used to say that the land price is determined by the weight on people on land. And since this pandemic itself will start de-densifying, you will see a sharp corrections in the land prices. In this contribution to the large cities in the housing sales will reduce from the current share of the, for very long time, these top 8 cities have contributed 75 or 80% of the total housing market in India. But in last 2-3 years, we were seeing post the digital economy and digitization process happened, and we see that these cities housing growth was better than large cities. And my own sense is now the pandemic will as a catalyst, and I see that will be propelled much more than that, so that the large city may likely to really see a decline in sales and the smaller cities likely to gain. And there are another side of the perspective which is there, that India may attract manufacturing jobs lost by the China. Many countries may start really pushing this to the India, and that's also augurs good for the smaller cities, because large cities won't be able to attract manufacturing jobs. They mostly cater to the service sector. Small cities are likely to a lot. Housing demand, that's where we say that we'll move to the smaller cities. And I think this is what I needed to say. Thank you so much for listening, and we can take some of these questions. Over to you, Kiera and Sandeep.
Thank you, Pankaj, for that insightful presentation. Our next session is question and answer round. We have quite a heavy flow of questions from our audience. Thank you so much for your interest. We have selected 5 most asked questions from our audience. So here goes the first question. So what are your views on the sales of luxury real estate? Will they revive anytime soon? Do you see a distress selling happening in luxury and ultra luxury market?
Yeah, I think this was happening prior to COVID, and I think this will happen again. We are already seeing a couple of advertisements coming. The broker started really offering some of these luxury housing projects at a discounted rate, provided those deals are taken care of in some period of time. I see this will happen more and more. So the luxury has been under stress, and that is where a lot of money got entangled, and the builders are also under a stress. So they will like to really dispose it off. There's no outlook of the prices to appreciate in future. So by holding the inventory, it is only a loss. So I see there would be a further decline in the luxury housing. And I have always seen that if the correction of the property prices, if I see the mean correction, if I consider 10%, your depending upon the cost bracket, you will see higher contraction in the high cost and lesser contraction in the lower cost. And largely the reason is because my construction cost arbitrage is much lesser. The land cost arbitrage is quite a lot. So whenever the contraction takes place, it takes place in the places where the land cost percentage is much higher. So luxury housing will see a much more corrections than the affordable and mid segment.
Moving on to the next question, related to ready reckoner rate. Do you see any correction happening in ready reckoner rate? Premium prices going down, fungible rates coming down in Mumbai?
I think either they do the ready reckoner rate corrections, or they should consider, if the market price goes down, certainly there should be a reduction in the ready reckoner rate. Otherwise, it forbids the seller as well as buyer to sell the property below the ready reckoner rate. Having said that, it should be calibrated to the market prices. It should not be fixed. I think the Maharashtra has taken an amendment in past. I think Gurgaon also once reduced, and the government has to look forward. They have to consider that if the sales and production continues, everyone wins. And if anything which is forbidding and restricting this particular thing is only a bad thing for the economy, people and themselves too. So the government need to consider reductions in this thing. And apart from that, either they reduce the percentage of the premium they compute based on the ready reckoner, as well as they also need to reduce the prices. It has done the double whammy. They have increased the percentage in past as well as ready reckoner increase. That's where it has added it has acted as a double whammy to the developers. And today's build project at a prevailing land cost, construction cost, and approval cost is completely unviable. That's the basic reason we are seeing time corrections and builders bleeding day by day. I see somewhere the productivity has to be looked upon, and the government has to reduce the ready reckoner rate as well as the premium they charge. They have done in past, but they've taken too long to do it. My own sense, now it's a time that they should not waste the time of the industry and the economy. Otherwise, it has a long drawn impact. In past, despite market becoming slow, they continued increasing the prices, not acknowledging it has become unproductive. I think somewhere the government has to sit down and understand the law of economics and demand and supply.
Next question is from IT sector. Now, IT companies work on long-term contracts. Why do you think lockdown will reduce their revenue? It will lead to job cuts and eventually vacancies in commercial offices?
I see that any long contract, any contract has a term called, in the act of event, in the event of eventuality, there are questions of the force majeure comes into the place. So I see that there is no contract which is not able to sustain the cost. They'll start reducing the cost, and if their revenue is dented. And we have seen a couple of IT companies, and they have already budgeted 30-35% reduction in their expenditure. They will be. So question is that people can sustain provided they have a margin and they have enough revenue. If it is not there, then they'll come back and then renegotiate. We ourselves are seeing everywhere there is a renegotiations and reassessment takes place. So, this is what was there in 2008. But even during that time, we have seen cases where companies have vacated the premises, leaving the keys on the door. There have been one or two such incidents which has happened. There may be a reasons for them to go back and renegotiate. And during the time, I see that builders have no other option but to renegotiate those deals, because no one can afford to have a vacant office.
Okay, you have mentioned that there will be price correction up to 20%. Now, with this price correction, what kind of risk our banking system will be exposed to? Do you think banking system itself force the developer to reduce the price? What do you see?
I see, there would be impact on that. There would be an impact to some of these loans where consumer equities are much lower than the disbursement which has taken place. In that case, if the property prices goes below his own equity and he feels, and he's a recent buyer, he may probably consider to default or give away. But having said that, even you consider our delinquencies to the extent of to 10 to 15%, it won't be, it would be significant probably. We did some assessment like, we have 19.2 trillion rupees worth of housing loan outstanding as on 2019. Last 2 years outstanding, if take, stands close to 5.4 trillion. And then, I did some maths and all those things. My own sense is that if 10 to 15% people defaults, it may probably increase the overall NPA by 1.7 to 1.8%. But I think that is something which can be taken care on. There could be a new instrument through which those can be averted. I think this is very important time which is emerging, where not only the housing finance company, even the developer will start really protecting their portfolios, and developer also, my own senses, they will probably have to provide an insurance cover. And this is also one of the suggestions I should have made in the presentation, that developers should speak to the insurance companies and say that in order to bring back the demand, can they ask insurance cover for the buyer, saying that in case he loses job in the next and loses in the next 3 months or 6 months time, they will undertake to pay the EMI for 6 months to 1 year's time. And I think they can probably have certain cover. That will probably be a good comfort and cushion. So I see this is a time you would find that mortgage guarantee companies and the insurance company will come a good handy to take care of those cover. And India's housing market is not that precarious to not being able to withstand this kind of impact.
Moving on to the next question. There has been a narrative going in the market that small and medium level developer will be wiped out from the market. Only large developer will be able to sustain in this market. What do you see the future of small and medium developer? And I'll add one more question here. Will this be a good time for a new developer to enter the market?
Narrative, I've seen that except for one or two corporates, most spent too much during the last 2-3 years when the talks consolidation going on. I see the spatial diffusion. I see the market becomes wider and wider. You will see more and more small developers which will start participating. You don't need very large developers in the smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities. Big developers you find only in the big cities and all those things. And I see it will be other way around. I see broad basing. I'll see in the Indian economy will be broad based. I'll see and with that, you will see broad basing, and would be more and more smaller developer come in the fore during the time. I don't think so the large developers will be consolidating. There is a limit. I'm saying that because it's a denominator and numerator. Now they are also having various laws and regulation which they have to follow. So there, and real estate is a local subject. Developer understand the local dynamics, so that is where it restricts the expansion. And in past also we have seen during 2006 and 7, many developers ventured into various geography, and later on after 5 years and 6 years they gone back to their old geographies. No one could really be successful and expand that during this time. And I'm saying that whosoever tried has gone through the stress and reeling under heavy debts and reached to an unsustainable level. So I see the real estate consolidation is or expansion is by broad basing. It never happens with the consolidation. It is an immobile assets, and it's not the company, and that's how the consolidations and the growth of the market takes place. This is very different products. Second question, can you repeat again? What was that?
Is this a good time for a new developer to enter the market?
I see that it all depends upon their own sustainability, what kind of a cost of the capital they have, which they want to put in, what kind of a productive prices they are getting, and they look at the project viability, like, assuming can they sell at 20% or 30% discounted rate and still be profitable, and they have cost to the capital and every other things taken care of? Can they maintain certain level of margin with that? So it all depends upon what is their entry price and the cost which they have. So if they have borrowed the cost and or capital at a high price, I won't suggest they should really move in. And if they have not done the working with 20%, 30% reduced prices and still making the profit, they should not move in. If that is done, then it's a good time to really move in, because you may probably get good distress sales.
Next question is coming from NRI Market. Considering the current crisis, what real estate investment opportunity will you advise to NRI real estate investor? Which cities he should look into?
Yeah, and see, it's very hard to. I all the time I have been of the opinion that people buy where they belong to, because and then people buy when they find a price productive. So if you're living in Coimbatore, go and buy in Coimbatore, provided you're getting with a rental yield of 3.5-4% prevailing prices, and you look at what is the rental going on in that market, you won't really go wrong. But if you think about buying anywhere and everywhere and without even looking at the productivity price and thinking about the prices will appreciate, I think that is where you may go wrong. So you need to see that, is the current price productive? What kind of demand supply situation which is there? Month's inventory is there. And I think rental yield is a very important parameter, which represents that what is the capacity of that micro market to pay and for living, and at what price you are buying. If you're buying at higher price than the people can pay, you are going to really lose. In past also it happened. There have been different narratives by various broking firms who said that in real estate, you don't look at rental yield, you look at property appreciation. Property appreciates only when it is productive and it is yielding goods. So it appreciated from 2005 when my rental yield was 4.5% and 5%. In 2009, rental yield was 4.8% or 5%. And when the rental yield in 2008 or 9, it touched 1% and all those things, post that we have seen only a decline. So it is a very important measurement to really look at the productivity of price. Rental property or currency never appreciates, is unproductive. And which may take place in those particular light, you would always a slower growth in the prices. What we have seen in past may not really happen. So I see all the time is buy where you belong to and buy only when you find there's a productivity. You may probably consider a call if you're having a cheaper capital at 2% and 1% from abroad. You can take a call, long-term call, even if you're losing right now, you can take arbitrage, but ensure that, like, can you take care of that? Will you be able to get another buyer who will give you a profitable exit? All of these working is very important.
Next question is related to developers margin. You have mentioned that we need price correction of at least 20%. Do you think that developer have that much of margin to reduce that kind of price?
No, and that's a basic reason I see that the developer have to go back and renegotiate their finance costs, renegotiate their approval costs, fight with the governments, and they'll have to go more objective in the sense of it. They don't have margins, frankly speaking. This is the time probably they'll have to cut some of their profits, and not only they probably may incur certain costs if they have purchased the lands in the recent times. Only the guys who probably have old land holding and don't have much of the leverage and gearing, they can probably afford to do that. Otherwise, there would be a loss. But having said that, builders are otherwise also losing. If the property is not, they have taken heavy debt. So every day basis they are losing. So question is that you lose to a lender or you lose to the customer. Some of these choices they need to really take a call. So wherever they find the better arbitrage, they should consider doing that, because prices going forward don't look to be going up. I see even if borrowing more capital, unless you replace the costly capital with the cheaper capital, looks very unlikely. So in that light, my own sense is either builder will pay to the lender or pay to the consumer. One of them they have to choose, and they have to choose on the basis of what is the arbitrage they're getting.
So one last question for the evening. You have mentioned that work from home will become more frequent now. What do you see? What will be its impact on the design? Will there be more sales in half bedroom kind of apartment? Will there be contraction in the sizes? Will people prefer to shift to outskirt of the city?
Yeah, I see that this is generally a thought, like, people may shift to the periphery, provided that peripheral market is well connected to the city. So I see there would be peripheral market growth, and it will also be growth to the smaller cities. So this will happen. The design will also takes its own call. The future design will start really preparing for Soho kind of a thing, where there is a small office integrated where people can take care of that. There is some secluded spaces, other thing which will start working, coming by. So the life post COVID will be very different than pre-COVID.
Okay. Thank you so much for your views, Pankaj. Over to you, Kiara.
Yeah. So I think that's all we have for now. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining in. These are challenging times, and together we can fight it through. For any queries, do reach out to us. Your feedback and inputs for the next session is also welcomed. So until next time, stay safe and goodbye.
And thank you very much to everyone, and stay safe, stay in close, and do good for the community and yourself. Thank you so much.